there a handheld mic at all?
No.
A small room.
What happened to our handheld mics that we used when we were offsite?
How do we still?
Yeah, we still have those. We use them for our large scale events, typically the outdoor events.
Kyle, I shot both you and John an email saying that I had a request from the public for microphones on the podium.
And
I guess you determined that wasn't important.
I believe John responded to the email shortly after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so we're in a small room.
Okay,
If somebody needs to stand at a table to be stabilized, that's great. If they need to move a chair up front, we're happy with that. And there's a huge microphone up there. I think everybody can hear everybody pretty well.
Actually, forgive me, but actually the online transmission is pretty poor. It is hard to see who is talking, and it is hard, more often, very hard, most often very hard, to understand just what is being said.
Okay.
Can we make adjustments
Say again?
for that observation? Can we make adjustments that the online is hard to know who's speaking, and it's hard to hear what's being said?
I can say if we can ask guests to make comments in front of this line so that they're inside the tables,
Yeah.
they'll be able to be picked up easily
By that mic.
by that mic, but also they'll be well on screen in the video.
Got it.
This room is not wired with a sound system as the school ones. So we would have to bring in an independent unit, and the size of our units for this space, it would be a little obnoxious. So.
Well, then there's a point at which you get too much
Well, you
input
get reverb,
and you
what
get
have you.
feedback.
We could look to possibly get a mic that would plug into that, correct? That's
Correct.
possible.
Yes, we can do an additional boom mic for that.
So great.
So that may be what we're looking into.
In your frequency. You're London. Okay. So we're going to start with announcements. Bathrooms are located in the foyer through the double doors. Emergency exits for this room are the door behind you or through the foyer and out that door. If you haven't already, please sign the white attendance sheet on the podium at the back of the meeting room. The meeting is available via live stream on the Diligent Community platform. And please note that the chat feature is not monitored. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted to the Diligent Community website no later than next week. This is a business meeting. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members or other speakers. I'm calling the March 9th, 2023 special board meeting and budget and appropriation hearing order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Archambault,
Here.
Commissioner Lucen,
Here.
Commissioner Rapp. Here. Commissioner Root,
here.
Commissioner Seaman,
I'm here.
Commissioner Koto,
Present.
Commissioner James. You have a quorum.
The second item on the agenda is the remarks from visitors concerning non-agenda items. So it's your opportunity to address the board regarding any issue other than the 2023 budget. We do have a section for public comment in the budget approval process. When called upon, please come to the center position just so that you're picked up by one of the microphones. State your name for the record and speak directly to the board. Please keep all comments under 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so please do not expect a response or answer from the park board this evening. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comment cards which are available in the sign-in sheet. Any park district staff will accept your card to be shared with the board. Do we have anyone who would like to make a public comment at this time?
relating to the,
Not the budget.
not related to the budget.
Yes, because on the agenda, there will be a.
I understand.
Oh, God, can you just bear with me 1 second? Okay. No, it's not it. Can you say something, Judy, so I can?
Ours is on the budget. Could I ask you for everybody having the
All
next
right,
one?
well, I'm gonna try. So I don't have, mine is on, I don't think it's on the budget, but you can tell me if it's on the budget. So I have an idea. So is that part of the budget?
I'm not sure if the topic is budget related, then there's a separate public
It's
participation.
not about the budget.
Okay,
It's about what you could do. It's an idea, a really good idea.
go for your 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Katie Stevens, and our lakefront is our biggest asset. It needs to be preserved. The groins and revetment have worked. The gabion baskets in the pier need repair, and the pier needs, some work. But what you do will be here forever. And if we're paying for this, I want you to consider, I always bring up my mom, if you've noticed that, and my mom always said, come up with a solution. So I'm like, is there a win-win-win-win? And the thing that I came up with is, I'm not sure why we haven't talked about this before, but it would be a win-win for the people of Winnetka, the swimmers and the dogs, if we put the stormwater pipe on the south end of the park. And I don't know why it's taken me 2 years to come up with this, but perhaps you would get pushback from people that bought next to a park. At least you could put the pipe at the south end or the north end of the dog beach. Why would we put the health and safety of our beachgoers at risk? And would our forefathers say in 100 years, why did we put the stormwater pipe on the north end where swimmers and people are? Also, Illinois does not allow for dogs and people to swim together. So can we talk about putting it on the south? And I also calculated that 171 feet of dog beach is worth about almost $20 million. So we'll have 3 rock piles in the lake where there are none. The north end, the dog wall, which should be a transparent chain link fence, not a wall, and the 2020's rock wall. We're a residential neighborhood. We don't want any walls. Our pier has held for 70 years. So why not build 2 piers? One on the north end, one on the south. And for Pete's sake, the neighbors bought next to a park. This is what the public would like. No high rocks, stormwater on the south. It makes sense. We keep our views, we keep it clean, we get what we want. We put the stormwater on the north end. It isn't great for anyone in the public from a safety perspective. If you had this, you could acquire 261 by eminent domain. We need to pass through our pipes on property of 261, or at least take an easement. I'm not sure why we couldn't do it at the front. I'm sure the village has an easement on the, whatever you call it, parkway. And at the very least, put the pipe where the dogs are either on the north, the stormwater pipe would be where the dogs are on the north or the south end, because none of this makes sense to us. Please consider this. With 2 years into this, we could have, if I say saved $1 million, we could have built the stormwater pipe on the south end, and it's a win-win for everyone. Sorry, thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
I'm sorry, I timed it, but I obviously ad libbed.
That's okay. Thank you. Are there any other public comments not related to the budget? Thank you. We have item number 3.1, which is the Park District presentation of the draft fiscal year 2023 budget and appropriation ordinance number 595.
Thank you, Commissioner Cotto. Beginning in August of last year, the staff began working on a proposal for the 2023 fiscal year. Through many meetings and many conversations, the Park District staff built what is a solid, responsible budget. We sat down with members of the board frequently to review these numbers, make sure that they met all the requirements that we were required to meet, as well as provided for the various programs and opportunities we offer to the citizens and residents of Winnetka. We presented a draft of this budget at 3 successive meetings in November and early December of 2022. After that draft was presented, a number of refinements were made to the budget. Specifically, the Kemper Sports contract had not been enacted at that point, and Kemper had not had an opportunity to present their golf budget to us. They did so in January, at which point we revised the golf budget to reflect the numbers that Kemper Sports provided to us. During the course of these conversations, we also frequently revised the capital projects and spending that were initially proposed as numbers came in and as items were prioritized or reprioritized. The ordinance we present here today reflects the hard work that staff, senior staff, line staff, and the board have collaborated upon for the fiscal year 2023. As I mentioned a few moments ago, this meets all our requirements and provides for all the programming at all our different venues throughout the park district.
So now we will take public participation. Item 3.2, would anyone like to speak about the budget? Please. You can choose your microphone.
Well, thank you, and Ms. Cotto and Commissioners, if you'll allow me, I'm going to speak a little bit loudly because my own experience is that it's next to impossible to understand what people are saying when you watch your meetings on the computer, and I do want people in Winnetka to be able to hear what I'm going to say now. My name is Mark Hecht. I have 3 main points. First point, the proposed budget should not, repeat, should not be adopted, shouldn't be adopted because it suffers from the same severe and very illogical defects that the entire Park District program regarding Elder and Centennial Beaches suffers from. Second point, it makes no sense at all for the Park District to move full speed ahead with engineering plans when it has no idea just what beachfront it will actually have to work with at Elder and Centennial. What the Park District will have to work with will only be known when the lawsuit filed by Mr. Shriesman has been concluded. Third, at this point your budget is entirely illogical because even as the Park District moves ahead with plans to spend $8 or $9 or $10 million on engineering before it knows what specific beachfront it will have to work with, the Park District has been slow walking the Shriesheim lawsuit. What they've done in court, instead of moving forward, has been to ask for a series of postponements, haven't filed anything on the record in the lawsuit, not even an answer, all of which necessarily delays any decision and that lawsuit by months. Mr. Seaman, as Mr. Seaman very wisely said at the February meeting, what the Park District does with regard to engineering at Elder and at Centennial needs a great deal more study and a great deal more very careful consideration. The many precise defects in the current plans, which Commissioner Root and Commissioner Rapp have pointed out, are too numerous for me to even attempt to list tonight, and I won't. But there is one very glaring point that I feel I have to mention now, and that is that it is not just entirely illogical, but also unethical for the Park District to go forward with Red Barn as its engineer. It's unethical because with Red Barn relying on the Shabika firm for coastal consulting. The Red Barn Shabika Group has an absolutely irreconcilable conflict of interest. The Shabika Group only recently worked as a consultant for the Ishbia interests on this very same beach project. So because of that, the Red Barn Shabika Group is entirely conflicted and simply cannot be allowed to proceed. Even if Mr. Ishbia, I'll finish in a few seconds.
Just want to make sure.
Even if Mr. Ishbia were to consent to Shabika switching sides and working for the Park District, it's just crazy, absolutely crazy to think that the Shabika Group could ever give unbiased advice to the Park District when the Ishbia interests are on the other side of the table. Bottom line, Park District has to hire a new set of engineers. So I ask that all of you, commissioners, will table the current budget resolution. And one last comment. What's going on does not make sense, and Winnetka taxpayers deserve an explanation. I hope that President James will be here tonight to maybe speak to that very point. There just has to be more here that meets the eye, and Ms. Cotto or Mr. Archambault, if you're able to speak to this now, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other people wish to speak on the budget?
Thank you, Mr. Nick. We've never met. I really appreciate hearing your comments. I'm Judy Rao with Glen Fuller Lane. I've been here before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. And many of my feelings about the plan and the process remain the same. And honestly, I am in disbelief that you're moving forward with any beachfront design while there's a lawsuit pending and a not-so-simple land swap that's yet to be consummated in 2.5 years. Why are you voting on
I
a
just want to
budget?
stop you. Is this about the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Why are you voting on a budget where 1/3 of the funds are devoted to lakefront projects, especially when you don't know the lot lines of the proposed project, the outcome of the litigation, or if 261 will be part of it? The scale of the drawings are set under the assumption that you have a 1,000-foot beach, which in fact may not be the case. In my opinion, it is irresponsible to you to be using taxpayer dollars on such an ill-conceived project at this time. Also, I think this piecemeal approach, which I keep coming back to, flies in the face of full transparency to the taxpayer. I fear 6.7 now is the slippery slope to possibly 16 million or more. I mean, inflation is driving your numbers north every other minute without any current measurable public mandate to do so. The funds you are allocating might better be utilized for many other needs to diversify the offerings for all Winnetka residents, not just people who might enjoy a beach for 2.5 months a year. Things such as a rec center, pickleball, child care for young families. Many, the possibilities are infinite, but you seem hell-bent on moving full steam ahead for God knows why, but I, as a taxpayer, really object to what you're doing and say, start over on the budget. Slow it down, take care of your dirty laundry first, figure out what's going on with the litigation, listen to people, have a public mandate, and then move forward more intelligently. I recognize you are all volunteers. You are probably really sick of this project, and I would be too. And frankly, I am as well as a resident. But I think we need to just take a step back, let the process unfold, and then come back to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about the budget?
Yes. What I'm having trouble comprehending, and I mean this to all of you, is I really can't understand, after 2 years of drawings and close to $760,000, this is off the cuff, I'm sorry, but why are we gonna spend another $1.6 million on design? I mean, haven't we gone through, you haven't done the southern design, $7 million, we're not allowing, Ishbia has the right to build his wall, Edwardson has the right to build his wall, I fixed the gabion baskets, fixed the pier, spend the budget money on the absolute, I understand, Christina, you wanna spend the budget, because you have a good rate, but spend the money on what is necessary to get it open. You already have a road to the beach. I fully disagree that you need another road to the beach. And I fully disagree that you need to put that wall in at this point in time. The lake is at 578 today, it's 4 feet down. So from all of the measurements that we've been taking, you're building a rock wall that's gonna be really, really high at the current rate that you have. So maybe that's your reason to do new drawings. But please, this is gonna be forever. Be our forefathers and think what the public wants. You know, at 578, we're gonna have a really high wall and it's not gonna be below your knee or your waist. So I wanted you to know what the lake is at today.
Does anybody else have anything to speak about with regard to the budget?
It's a lot of money.
Steve Judison, 1436 Asbury, Jamaica. So I don't know the particulars of the budget because I came in on this late, but you know, this has been going on for a while. You're kind of trying to shoot the rapids here and get this done, and I would tell you not to do that. If you had to have a budget, maybe a separate appropriation, you set that aside for whatever that's going to be, but you don't know what it's going to be. And the fact is, there's a conflict of interest here that's been talked about. Also, I would be concerned if, I don't know how this works, but the possibility of, you know, this lawsuit happening, if you decide to do it without regard to that and try to do this project, what about D&O insurance? Are you guys going to be individually sued on this? Will the insurance pay because you've been warned and you're not acknowledging it? You're just going to go full steam ahead? And there's a lot of people who don't want this process to be slowed down, and if you ignore that, you open yourself up to that.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak about the budget? Okay, I am looking for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget and appropriation ordinance number 595.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Any discussion?
I mean, I have some comments.
Make it quick, because we're 5 minutes behind.
Listen, I thoroughly support the budget process. We had several meetings. We had lots of follow-up, refinements. Staff works really hard. Costa, Kyle, Pat, Matt Johnson, Kemper, Paul Schwartz. Worked really hard at this. We're very good at budgeting. So I believe in our budget process. I trust staff. I think it's a very responsible budget. We've got an operating profit in 2023, budgeted in 2023. Yes, we have substantial capitals, major capitals, both the golf course, about 1.7 million, and of course the lakefront, 7.8 million. I think last year the number for the lakefront was 10 million. Didn't spend a penny.
You don't know how much.
It's a budget. So, responsible, and most importantly, it leaves us with substantial excess reserves at the end of 2023. So I am wholeheartedly in support of Ordinance 595, and thank you to staff for all the hard work and diligence that you put into this thing.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank Jim because he was willing to sit down with me in his office on multiple occasions, at least 3, and work me through these numbers. And staff, you do a great job on your budget presentations. I know you work very, very hard. So what I'm about to say, I say after a crisis of conscience. This week, I received numerous calls from residents, and they were asking me a question. Can you tell me what is included in the $9.5 million on Fund 3700, which is our capital projects fund? And so I said, sure, well, where is that? And so what I did is I went back and I actually sent them the presentation that Jim and staff provided on November 17th. If you look at the penultimate page, I think, you will see that there is no detail at all. So then what I did was I went and I found minutes of our meetings in November, in December, and January. And I sent those minutes to people so they could see how much money we were talking about. And here are a comment, this is a comment from a former president of the Park District. The comment was, you are using 1/33 of your allocated budget to Centennial Elder Lane. She rounded it up, $8 million. Why, I understand, she said, I understand the budgeting process, I used to do it. But why are you allocating 1/3 of the Park District budget at a time, and she could sound like Mrs. Roth. Her comments were very much aligned with you, Judy. She was concerned that, she said, think what you could do with $8 million. You could have a rec center. You could look at a pool. Look what you could do with $8 million, and here was the beef, and this is what I've heard. I heard it from 6 residents, inclusive, in addition to the people in this room. The beef is, you're in a lawsuit. You don't know how big your beach is gonna be. You just don't know. You don't know if you're gonna get 261 or if you're not. You don't know if 70 feet of Centennial is going away or you're not. And then kind of to piggyback Katie's comment, when I looked up the lake elevation today, it was 578. The last plans I saw for the Elder Stone breakwater was to be that the breakwater would be at an elevation of 585 and it would extend out into the lake 216 feet. Depending on where you are, that's either, in my calculations, going to be a 6-foot wall or it's going to be a higher wall. And we keep hearing from our public that they don't want it. We hear time and time again, multiple residents coming in saying, we don't want all of this. So the president, the former president, also said, you are not listening to your public. You've never gone out for referendum on this. And so I really do have a crisis of conscience tonight. I think the budget, but for Fund 3700, is fantastic. If I could bifurcate that out, I would tell you I would vote and approve this budget because we are, you're right, Commissioner Seaman, we do a very good job on the budgetary process. But I too have a problem with $8 million being allocated to Elder at a time that we don't know what we're going to have. And I really question why we need to have a huge stone breakwater out there at this point until we know how wide, how long, how big our beach is going to be. More importantly, we have had no independent coastal engineering review of this design. It has not happened. It was promised. It has not occurred. And I will again reiterate the comment of Mark Heck this evening. The design that was done as a joint venture between the Park District and our neighbor to the south. And so all I have ever asked for was to have a neutral and independent evaluation of that design and to have perhaps some hydrodynamic modeling to figure out how big these stone breakwaters need to be and to kind of figure out what the sand is going to do. So based on that, I love the budget, except for Fund 3700, and I think I'm going to have a problem approving the budget. At this point, I guess we can't segregate out Fund 3700. I don't think that's possible. But that's a question for you, Madam Chair. You know, you're a finance person. Is there a way that we could table Fund 3700 for further review and discussion?
No, sadly, it's a budget to be approved in total. And remember, just the purpose of the budget is to set placeholders for each of these categories. It's not an obligation to spend this. And remember also that, as Commissioner Rapp has pointed out, any expense over $25,000 needs to come before the board as a separate action. So this is not, and I want to bring us all back to the budget conversation because These are placeholders, this is a plan, this is forward-looking. This is, anything over $25,000 will have to come back before us, will be separately considered, will be specifically considered with additional detail, which I think should give everyone in this room some comfort that we're not willy-nilly writing the check today. We're putting a placeholder in the event that it happens. We have had this placeholder in this budget in many prior years with the hope that we could come to an agreement around a design. So I want to take other comments. Anybody else from the board? Are we ready for a roll call?
May I make one other comment?
Yes.
The difference this year is in past years, you did not have a lawsuit dealing with Elder Centennial. You do have. And that is another reason why I have such a crisis of conscience to allocate these funds at this particular time. That's the distinction and that's the difference. Thank you.
We're going to do a roll call.
Can I ask you a question? or is it-
No, sorry.
Sorry, Steve.
Thank you.
Commissioner Archibald?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucen?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
No.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
We have a motion to adjourn
So moved. Second.
and a roll call.
Commissioner Archibald?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucen?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, so we are adjourned at 6:14.